is 4 common habits that turn women off, repulse women, that girls just think are kind of icky. Okay. And these are like really common habits that a lot of guys have. Like honestly, a lot of these things, uh, you should definitely avoid them, but a lot of guys don't even know that they're common, or that they do them, or that they're bad. Because a lot of them are like survival mechanisms that we come up with during like our socialization when we're kids. Or like normal people, like people that kind of get mediocre results, or that like guys that get girlfriends in spite of these things, like those people will tell us that these things are fine or they're good, and it's really misleading. So the first common habit is being overly apologetic. So if you see, and maybe you even feel like this, I felt like this when I was like 18 and 19, and I even feel like this sometimes today, like off and on. You walk around like you're like this scared little puppy dog, like sorry, 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 like all the time, like oh, I'm so sorry. You have to cut that shit out. Like that, there is no excuse for having that kind of habit as like a common behavior, especially because you're not actually sorry. Like if you accidentally cut off somebody in line, you're not really that sorry. Like you had to go where you're gonna go. You can say like excuse me, but there's no need to like freak out about it and be like sorry, sorry, sorry. You're just trying to hide from the confrontation, right? And so many people get like really worried about confrontation. It's nothing to be worried about. It's nothing to get upset about. It's something that happens, and it's totally fine if it happens. Like you can deal with it. Most men will apologize mostly to like guilt trip people into being nice to them. So, if you apologize, then people are generally going to be nice to you. So that's why this is like a very sneaky thing that a lot of guys do, because they don't even know it's a bad thing, because you get the result you want. You might know that you apologize too much. You might know that like, saying sorry randomly doesn't make any sense, but it's very hard to break the habit unless you're intentional about it. And especially like on top of that, one thing that I've noticed is that nothing makes a girl feel less safe and less like she's with a guy that she wants to be with than a guy that needs everyone to like him. And that's primarily why guys apologize, why people apologize too much, especially for things you're not sorry for. So I'll have some actions at the end that you guys can start taking, but like whatever you do, just start practicing not apologizing, like catching yourself when you apologize too much. Because if you're apologizing for things that you're not actually sorry for, it's just going to create, well, first of all, it's going to take all the meaning out of apology. So people aren't going to believe you. They're going to be like, oh, well, yeah, you're not really sorry though. And also it's going to it's going to put a lot of pressure on people, right? Like if everything you're like walking on eggshells around everyone and you feel like you have to say sorry all the time,
Yeah,
just
can I add
saying,
something?
yeah, go ahead.
Just like I feel like even sometimes because I know that I've worked on this. I feel like there's sometimes where you're saying sorry non-verbally too, and like you got to catch that too because sometimes it's in like I don't know like the way you sit or the way you like talk to someone or like how you said like you might cut someone in a line and you might start to like shrink because you want them not to like confront you or something like you'll like hide. But like
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely noticed times where I like just don't care or like I do something like you said where I'm not sorry about it and like I just have a different like posture or a different like way I'm talking my voice. I'm not like sorry, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that's yeah, like it happens I think because when like I said I first started working on not saying sorry, but then I feel like I started to notice times where I could be perceived as being sorry even if I'm not saying it, I guess.
Yeah. No, like that is that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? Like that's another thing where like, so Ian, we're talking about the things that turn women off. The first one is being overly apologetic. So just saying sorry for no reason, especially for things you're not actually sorry about. Like if it's something that you needed to do, like don't apologize. There's no point in apologizing. You can feel bad that you hurt someone's feelings. You can be like, hey, I'm sorry that I'm sorry that your feelings are hurt. Like that does really suck. Like I feel bad, but this is what needs to happen. Like I'm not apologizing for what I did because I did it, right? I did it because I wanted to. If you're gonna say sorry, it needs to be because you made an actual mistake and you're genuinely like you regret making that decision,
Mm.
right? That's really important. And Dennis kind of added in like nonverbal apologies, right? Where maybe you do something, you know, you kind of fucked up and you'll like shrink a little bit, your body language will get small. Or like for example, like Mahir does this a lot when he approaches, or guys when they start out, they do this a lot, where I feel like I pick on Mahir too much. Guys will do this in general when they approach, is they will apologize with their body language. They'll half-ass it, right? And by half-assing it,
Mhm.
like you're almost apologizing for the fact that you're even approaching because you're not even trying. You're not even trying to make it happen.
Right.
So
It's like not being excited. Like you're just like, oh, this sucks for both of us, doesn't it? Like that's the vibe you kind of some people
yeah,
kind of carry when they go into it. Because
exactly.
even
It's
listening to
like,
audios, like I've noticed that.
yeah, it's like, hey, sorry, I have to do this, but like this
Right,
is
right.
something
Like
that
I
I'm
have to do
supposed to
this.
do. It's like,
Right.
no, like, hey, I'm here. You don't even necessarily have to be excited, but you do have to like not be apologetic about it. Like
Right.
apologizing for, doing what you were gonna do anyway, like there's no point in that, right? Because you're
So what's
basically,
the
I mean,
opposite?
what?
What's the opposite of being apologetic? Like, what should we focus on instead?
Well, I'll have actions at the end, but
Okay.
primarily for this one, it's just literally just catch yourself when you're apologizing. Stop, just stop. Sometimes you don't have to like replace an action with another action. Sometimes you replace an action with nothing. Just don't do anything, right? Like being aware
Or
of
just
it.
like recognizing it. Yeah, like
Yeah, being
recognize.
aware of it and then just not doing it anymore. That's the same thing. Or like that's the same thing as, or it's just as good and sometimes better than
Yeah.
replacing it with something else.
Yeah.
You don't want to constantly feel like you're doing stuff all the time,
Yeah.
right? You just want to be able to live. And with this, you can just stop these bad habits. Ideally, you can just remove these and they're not a problem anymore. The second one,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead. Do you have a thing?
Oh no, it just sounds like chill, bro. Is what it sounds like.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, not really though. It's like very
It comes
specifically,
up like an instinct though. Like you said, it's like a habit. Like
yeah,
you grow up like being told like, oh, you should apologize for that. And so like you just tell yourself like I gotta apologize to every like a girl that I didn't make super happy by going over and talking to her, or every like guy that I pissed off, whatever. Like, and so
yeah,
it's like you gotta remember that like not every time that you go up to someone it's gonna be the same as the one time that it was like really bad. Cause like that's what we're like training ourselves, right? Is to like be prepared for it to be bad, but like know that we did it for our own reason. Like not because they're right.
yeah. Well, really, what it is like it's not even just chill out. It's just be aware that you're being apologetic and stop. Like, just stop apologizing. So, like, this can be literally as simple. It's not that deep, right? It's just
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
as
yeah.
simple as don't say the word sorry. Like, just practice it, right? Just don't say the word sorry. That was a big thing for me, and I came up a lot more confidence. And if you want to replace it, you can replace it with something positive. Something I used to do whenever I've gotten really good at navigating through the club. And one thing that you can do is I would just cut through. I'd be like a fucking bowling ball, dude. Like I'm pushing people out of the way, but I'm smiling and I'm like, I love you. You're awesome. Hey, I like that shirt. I'm bringing like fun instead of apologizing. And that really worked a lot. That helped me a lot. Um, but just not saying sorry in general. Because what you don't want to do is turn into one of these like red pill alpha males that's like, oh yeah, I never apologize for anything. I'm fucking sick. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you don't need to do that either.
Mhm.
You just need to not say sorry for stuff you're not sorry for. Because then when you actually fuck up, when you actually make a mistake, and it's time to apologize, then it's time to apologize. And you can apologize. Hey, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to screw that up like that. That's my bad. Or uh I didn't mean to insult you. I was just kidding. I was totally just kidding. I'm sorry. Because you're actually sorry. But when you're apologizing for everything, it's like no apology means anything to anybody. Um, so the second one, indecisive behavior is super icky and gross. Now, the cool part about indecisive behavior and fixing this is that we literally have hundreds of decisions we make every day. I chose to put on this flannel. I chose to wear this hat, right? I chose to wear my headphones instead of just raw dogging it with my laptop speakers. I chose to do all these things. And being decisive is literally just reducing the amount of time between thinking about it and doing something. delaying decisions over and over will actually train you to be less decisive, and women will really pick up on that. So even if there's a microsecond where you're delaying a decision to make a slightly better decision when you're in front of a girl, she picks up on it subconsciously. She just will. And so one thing I trained myself to do when I was in my early 20s, and this really helps with pulling, with anything where you're doing something that might be kind of risky, like trying to pull, you're trying to bounce around the club with a girl for the first time. Maybe you're trying to ask her to get a drink. You're not sure if she's into you. Certainty and not delaying decisions and being decisive, that is the most important thing. Because the thing is, so many people will just default to being like, well, this guy's decisive. Like, he must be right. Like, he must be correct. Like, no one's this confident about something he's wrong about. So one example, and this is actually a really good example from back in the day. I watched this guy, Max, who did this course called The Natural. And he was talking about how he was out, met a girl, and they were going to leave, and they were going to like go get food. He had never been in the city before. He had no idea where he was going. And he was like, all right, they left the club. He's like, all right, this way. And then he like started Googling places on his phone as he was walking. But he decided a direction to go, to walk. Instead of just standing around with his dick in his hand, like, oh, where do we go? What's close? What's good here? Just move. When in doubt, just move. Because the thing is, you've been trained your whole life to assume that it's wrong or bad to be wrong, to be incorrect about something. But it's actually not true. A lot of the beliefs around being wrong, being incorrect, that is true if you handle it really badly, right? If you handle it badly. But if you handle it really well when you're wrong and you're adaptable, it's not bad to be wrong. So for this example, he Googled a place while he was walking. He was like, this place looks good. Gets there, it's like closed. It's like shut down. There's boards over the front. Like it's done. It's like, oh, okay, next place. I'm going to call an Uber and I'll make you food back at my apartment or back at my hotel. Like immediately new decision. As long as you're willing to make a new decision as soon as you mess up and make an incorrect decision, you're good. So it's so much better, and this is especially with women, to make a decision, realize you're wrong, and calibrate later. It's so much better to do that. Because if you make a decision and she says no, you can calibrate. You make a decision, she says yes, and it ends up being a bad decision, calibrate. But a lot of times you'll make a decision, it'll end up being in the one of a million correct decisions you could make, and then you'll be good. It'll be fine. But the problem is that guys will try, they think there's one correct decision or they think there's 3 correct decisions. There's a million correct decisions. And there's also there's probably a billion incorrect decisions, right? There's a lot more incorrect decisions than there are correct ones. But as long as you're going in the right direction, you're fine. So there's a ton of possible correct decisions. And so if you realize that, it's way easier to be decisive. So that's a very attractive trait, is being decisive. Indecisiveness, super gross to women. I think it's super gross. Okay. It's okay. Big sneeze. Am I correct? Indecisiveness, gross, icky. Yeah, she said yes, but she's shy. Okay.
Facts.
All right. Third, self-deprecating humor. I used to do this a lot, and I'm going to talk about how to be self-deprecating in a funny way that's actually high value. But a lot of guys will do this. And I have a Mahir story. I was just talking about how I pick on him too much, but specific story from when he was in Nashville. So obviously we're like, it's good to make people laugh, right? Well, it's not always good to make people laugh. You don't want to make people laugh by doing cheap laughs. Those are dirty guns. I didn't flip the, okay. All right. You don't want to make people laugh by doing cheap laughs and shitting on yourself. It's super beta, super gross, makes girls want to throw up, okay? You don't want to do that. What you want to do is either have high value humor of just joking about stuff that's funny, which there's plenty of examples. You can watch tons of comedians that have very high value humor. You don't have to necessarily DHV in all your jokes. You don't have to like analyze all your jokes. Like, is this alpha or beta? Like, I'm not telling you to go that crazy with it, but there's a difference between, you know, low value self-deprecating humor that kind of shits on yourself and funny joke. Okay. And a lot of it comes down to subcommunication. So there's a big difference between, you know, not taking yourself too seriously, being able to laugh at yourself and being self-deprecating. So an example would be, yeah, I'm like a total virgin. I have no idea what I'm doing. Right. Saying that, I might be making fun of myself. Even if I am a virgin, I'm like making fun of myself. I'm laughing at myself. I'm not taking myself too seriously. Right. But what a guy will do is like, yeah, I'm a virgin. It's super fucking weird. And like try to like fake a smile. It's super awkward. Okay. That is the type of self-deprecating, like gross humor, or even joking about stuff that is not admirable at all. So like, yeah, man, I'm never on time. Haha. Like, yeah, dude, I'm not dependable at all. Ha ha ha. Like that's not good humor. Even if it makes someone laugh, it's not like they're laughing at you. They're laughing at the fact that one, you would even say that about yourself. And two, like I used to kind of be like this in high school. Like I was the guy that was like, I was late for practice. I didn't want to work extra in basketball up until like my junior year. And I was that guy. And so I was kind of like the joke. And I would play into it because I was like really not confident. And so I didn't know how to handle it. So I would play into it. I'd be like, well, I'm just gonna, yeah, that's me. Haha. I'm the goofy guy that doesn't do anything right. Haha. No one was laughing with me. Like it's kind of sad thinking about it now, but like no one was laughing with me, dude. They were all like, haha, yeah, you're right, loser. And it's like you don't want to joke about that stuff. You don't want to joke about like how funny it is that you suck. There's no point in doing that. Um, this is not necessarily self-deprecating humor, but this kind of goes back to being apologetic and a little bit on the side of like subcommunications about it. When Mahir was in Nashville, one thing that he did, we went to the cigar lounge, me, him, my friend Eric, you guys know Eric, and I think my buddy Jonah from the gym. We got dinner, we got a cigar. At the cigar lounge, and keep in mind, Eric, the whole time, he doesn't like cigars that much. He like smoked half a cigar and like fucking threw it away. But Eric was like lighting matches on his own the whole time, just lighting matches, fucking playing with fire like a fucking kid, basically. And no one thought anything of it. They're like, oh yeah, like he likes fire, whatever. Okay. Mahir does it one time. Nobody even notices it. And Mahir goes, yeah, I don't know why I was doing that. That was super weird. Huh? And like me and Jonah were like, wait, dude, like there's no point. Why'd you apologize? Like it was fine. No one even thought of it. Like no one even noticed. But you like pointed it out because he got in his head about being weird. Right. So when you're constantly worried about being weird, you feel like you have to make a joke out of it. And that's the epitome of taking yourself too seriously. Because you feel like you have to release all this tension when you don't have to. You don't have to at all. You can laugh at yourself and you probably should laugh at yourself. Like I think that kind of stuff is really good. It's very valuable to be able to laugh at yourself and joke, but you should never like make jokes about how you're bad or how you're stupid or whatever, or how what you did was super weird. Like that's not the way to take it. Okay. Fourth, this is a big one. Complaining. Go ahead.
Um, you said like don't make fun of the fact that you might have did something weird. Um, that like a technique to recalibrate, like if you actually did do something weird, can't you say like, oh yeah, that was weird, my bad, haha.
I mean, yeah, you can, but you're not making a joke out of it. Like,
Okay, what's the difference between not making a joke out of it versus making a joke out of it?
well, I mean, dude, I think it really comes down to like if it's weird or not. And you have to understand, like, you have to be able to pay attention, like, am I being weird or not?
What if it
Right?
was weird?
How do you know?
Um, maybe like people like reacted in a certain way, maybe they like gave you a certain look. and you kind of know,
Okay.
oh, I probably shouldn't have done that.
That is actually not a good way to judge whether or not something you did was like uncalibrated or not.
Really?
What you want to focus on is, was what I did congruent with me? And this is what I'll talk about this in another training, but you want to ask yourself, like, did I want to do that because that's congruent with who I am and my personality, or was I being try hard? Like, was I being weird to me, not to other people?
Wow.
Because there's a lot of stuff that we'll do that's weird that, like, you'll just have to own it. And some people won't like you. You don't need to calibrate on stuff that people don't like about you, because some people won't. Some people won't fuck with you at all. Because you can get down this rabbit hole, and I don't want to give this in a training, right? Because it's like, you can get down this rabbit hole of like, yeah, you can tell if you did something weird. But if you have to ask, then it's better to assume that, like, yeah, it might have been weird, but that's me. Right? Like, one of the most confident and like badass things you can do really is be like, do some weird shit and be like, yeah, but that was actually me. Like, that's who I am. And not, you can go too far with it, right? You can do the super try hard, like, yeah, like dancing monkey, like, yeah, look at me, I'm so fucking weird. Like, you're like doing this weird thing. You can go too far with it. Yeah, validation seeking, jumping through hoops to be like the quirky weird person, right? But you have to, that's why self-validation and self-acceptance is so important as like a foundational level of attraction, because and social skills. Because if you have that level of validation you're getting from yourself, then you're good. Right? Because some of the stuff you do might be weird. And like for you, Tanner, some of the stuff you do might be weird. But that's the reason that the people that love you will love you. But it's also the reason that the people that hate you will hate you. And that's fine. Like, you're not going to get everybody. And what you have to focus on is being truly congruent. Congruency is like one of the most important things. So that's kind of like, when in doubt, you can always reflect after and be like, was that me? Like, was that, that weird thing I did, is that in line with the type of person I want to be? And if it is, maybe it was a little uncalibrated, maybe it was a little forced, but like, I'll live with it, right? If I make, like, my personality is very like, I'm going to say I'm going to put my foot in my mouth sometimes, right? And can I look back on something and be like, yeah, like, I could have said that differently, or I shouldn't have said something like that? Yes. And I can make adjustments from that. But at the same time, in the moment, I'm not going to assume that it was me, you know? And if I look back on one of those moments where I say something weird, it usually comes from a place of me trying too hard to be something that I'm not as well.
It literally goes back to the first point in the
Yeah.
presentation.
Yeah. Just being unapologetic.
Yeah.
Being unapologetic, not apologizing for who you are. And also, like, you have to put yourself in these weird situations where you're being kind of a weirdo to even understand who you are. Because when you start out, you understand very little about who you are, like, as a person. And a lot of this is like self-discovery, figuring, like, trying different stuff, being like, okay, does that feel like me or not? And then you can kind of lean into that stuff more.
It's putting the focus internally as well.
Yeah, exactly. So the fourth common habit is complaining. Complaining is icky. Okay. It's not only icky to girls, but it's like super icky to guys that you want to be around too. Like, as soon as I hear myself complain, I want to like throw up. And I've been really guilty of complaining in the last like year and a half, 2 years. And it's something I've really cracked down on a lot more. And I still catch myself doing it sometimes. And something that you should eliminate from your life completely, because every guy I've ever met that's really successful, whether it's with money, with girls, whatever, they never complain. When I think about all the times where I've been like the best with girls, the best in my business, the best fitness, like, dude, I never complained about those areas of my life. I never did. Even when things weren't going well, I wasn't complaining. I was just like, awesome, and a new problem to solve. So this is the new rule that I want you guys to adopt: is everything's awesome. No one wants to be around a complainer. So you have to become a master at reframing everything so you're never complaining. Even if it's a negative thing, even if it's something you wish was different. Reframing these complaints into something positive, being like, okay, somehow I need to make this positive. That's incredibly important, because if you're not able to do that, you're gonna have a really hard time. You have a really hard time because you're gonna have nothing to do with your complaints, right? But you can always complain, or you can always reframe a complaint, like every single time. Because if you go with the complaint, like there's a negative thing in your life, you want to complain about it. If you go with that, then one, you're giving power to it. Two, you're also acting as if there's nothing you can do about it, because you're not acting to change it. You're just complaining. And then third, you're putting yourself in the frame of, I can't handle this, I need help. And imagine like complain. There's been times where I've like complained to Katie, and like Katie, I can tell like she thinks it's like icky. She's like, ugh, gross, disgusting. Like she'll like be there for me. She's like, she's a really good person. But like, I'm not doing myself any favors, right? And like, no one's gonna be perfect with this stuff, but you're not doing yourself any favors at all by complaining, because you're basically telling her, hey, I can't handle this, I need help. Which you never want to give off that impression. You can do that with like mentors. You can do that with people that you're genuinely like getting help from, that you could realistically get help from. But with a girl you're dating, like complaining to her about like some business you're running or some problem at work or whatever, like the fuck is she going to do about it? Like she's probably not going to do anything. It's your girlfriend. Like, or it's a girl you just met at the bar, especially, right? Girls you just meet, obviously you never complain. There's no need to ever complain. You never want to put yourself, and it's not even that. It's not even just putting yourself in this frame in front of people, in front of girls. It's also like, why are you putting yourself in this frame in general? You're putting yourself in this box of like, I need help, I'm helpless, someone help me. You never want to do that. There's no point. So as far as actions to take, there's one action that you can do for each of these. Okay, so I already mentioned this first one. Instead of saying sorry, just say nothing instead. You don't need to replace it with anything. You don't need to have some crazy like morning routine to stop being apologetic. You can literally just stop apologizing. That's the beauty of removing stuff from your life. You don't have to add anything else. You just remove it. Like these bad habits, just remove it. Same thing with like filler words. You can, like I just said like 12 times. Same thing with removing filler words. I can make a conscious effort not to say them. And the more I do it, the better I am at it. There we go. 2, make small decisions quickly and practice every day. So every single day, every time you notice there's a decision you could make, just make it fast, even if it's wrong, and be okay with the decision being wrong. Okay. 3rd, there's a common theme here of just catching yourself. Catch yourself when you put down yourself to get people to laugh or to get approval from other people. When you're apologizing for who you are, basically, is what you're doing. And catch yourself complaining and just cut it out. As soon as you catch yourself complaining, stop talking. It might be a little weird, but you know what's better than complaining or putting yourself down in front of other people or apologizing too much? Being quiet. That's way better. Being the weird guy that stops talking in the middle of a sentence is way better than the guy that complains. Way better. And eventually you'll find something to fill that silence with. But it's so much better to do that.